an email as well. Because what if the buyer agent calculated the dates incorrectly? Let's say that you put into the contract 12 days, right? And the buyer, okay, so you guys understand that if a date, let's say you put 12 days, right? And the date falls on Saturday. Do you really have 12 days? You have 14 days because that automatically goes into Monday. Okay, but what if the buyer agent sends you that the 12 days falls on Saturday? Doesn't that mean the buyer agent is incorrect?
What's an attorney? So
Well, then it should be on Monday. That's what
I agree with what they're saying.
No, but that's my point.
Right.
So I should check what the buyer agent is sending me as the listing agent, and I should send my own dates. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. And then I would put in there, hey, Mario, just remember that it is 12 days, but since it landed on a Saturday, it should be. Do you guys understand that? That's what I mean by it is okay for you guys to train everybody else. Just be a better professional. That's my point. Okay, so this is just an example, guys. Quick example. This is a template that I used to use. I have a different one now, but this is quickly. So this was a deal that I did back in 2021. You see here. So address, purchase date, buyer, seller, first deposit, second deposit, inspection period, loan approval period, etc., and closing date. So I send that to everybody. Okay, and if you guys have a transaction coordinator in your transaction, that's normally what they do. That's their job. If they don't do that, they're fired. Okay, because that's what their job is supposed to do.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yes.
What makes it, how do you figure out what the effective date is?
The effective date is the date. So always think that the date of contract is day 0. Effective date would be immediately that day, but the date begin the next day. So you start counting after the next day. So effective date is today, right? But you start counting 1, 2, 3 as of the next day. It's kind of like escrow deposit. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3.
We have a question.
Okay. Yes.
They're saying, would it be better to round up the date on the contract itself to Mondays to avoid confusion with others?
Yeah, 100%. The problem is that most agents don't check. They just put in a number. They put 12 days and they don't look. So it is important. We have the great thing, guys, now is that I can literally speak. I say, hey, Google, how many days is 12 days from this date? And Google already calculates it for me and tells me. So, I mean, you would know if it lands on a Saturday or Sunday, but most agents do not. All I am telling you and guiding you is to double check everything. So that way the problem doesn't become yours. All right, so let's get back to the on or before. So now that you understand what I mean by on or before, let's say that it says 20 days loan approval period. And that 20 day lands on such date. You, the buyer agent, call me. I am the listing agent, and you tell me, hey, and the contract is for 30 days, and the loan approval is for 20 days. And you wrote into the contract on or before whatever that date falls on, right? And you call me, hey, Yuri, just want to let you know, awesome, we got loan approval. Okay, we got loan approval. That's it. My buyer is going to continue with this contract. Okay, I let a day pass by, 2 days. I have a conversation with the seller. And I asked the seller, are you ready to close? Yeah, you're ready, let's close. Property is vacant, let's close already. Hey, Marco, I'm just letting you know that we're ready to close. So the seller would like to close tomorrow. What are you going to tell me as a buyer?
My buyer's not ready. Yeah.
My buyer's not ready. And remember, a closing date is in 10 days. Yeah, okay, that's not my problem. We're ready to close. You put in the contract on or before. And the before part means we're ready to go. Do you guys understand that? Now, you guys, and I'm sure that you'll say, yeah, but the bank has the right. Well, no. You're more than welcome to cancel if you want. But remember, do you have a say on your deposit anymore? No, because the loan approval already passed. So, Mr. Buyer, you don't want to close? That's perfectly fine. But you put on or before. My buyer is going to hire an attorney. And he wants the $20,000 deposit. Because remember, as the listing agent, I now forced your buyer to put $20,000 in escrow instead of the 5 that you guys sent me. Do you see the difference? Now I'm going to explain to you how to make this right. So stop using this. Now, you're allowed to do 2 things. The main thing and the most important thing is that you should put in there 6 2026. Because if the loan approval passes and you say, my buyer's ready to close, and then the seller's agent tells you, hey, we're ready to close too. Yeah, but wait, we just got loan approval. We're closing on closing date. Oh, but my seller wants to close now. Can they force us? No, because the closing date is June 30th. Are we good? Yes. Now, the other thing, if you want to act like an attorney and you want to write some things down, this is what you can write. This is just an example. You can put however many days you want. You can put effective date or executed date, right? Now, what is the difference between that and on or before?
First, we can have another, get an extension.
No. No.
That's exact.
That's an exact date. If you calculate 45 days from the moment you go under contract, what does it give you? An exact date. So isn't that correct? Now, I'm going to blow your mind right now. Let's say you call the agent, you are the buyer, I'm the listing agent, you're the buyer agent, and you say, my buyer just got approved. We're at loan approval, right? Now the seller's agent reaches out, I reach out to you and I say, hey, listen, 2 days have passed, we have 10 more days to go. My seller is ready to close. Okay, we want to close tomorrow. Can the buyer, if they're ready to close, close? Yes. Isn't that the exact same thing as on or before? Because remember, everything in real estate is negotiable. So what's wrong with that? What this does is that you added ambiguity, and now you could be sued if the buyer really wants to go for this date. You guys understand that? What if there's 15 days left? What if there's 20 days left? What if there's 30 days left on contract? What if it's a 60-day contract? They put 30 days for approval period, and there's still 30 days. And the seller says, at this point, I don't want to wait. And they want to take you to court. Do you guys understand that? This way, you could still close earlier. You just both have to agree. But if the buyer doesn't agree, you close at closing. Does everybody understand the difference between one or the other?
You're affecting your client.
You are, and that's the most important part. So I'm happy that you guys are noticing what I'm trying to show you, right? The whole point is that you work for whatever specific client you have been hired for. If you're hired by the buyer, protect the buyer. If you're hired by the seller, protect the seller. Okay, perfect. Do you guys understand that? Okay. And again, did I just not show you? I just said I will always show you what to do, but I'll give you a reason as to why do. Do you guys understand that? All right. So the next part is closing date. I think by me talking about that specific date, it talks about closing date as well. Okay. So closing date is the same mentality. Just keep in mind. The most important thing to understand is that you can always extend, but you gotta use an extension form. Guys, stop doing it in the blank addendums. Okay, you are not attorneys. You can go on Bold Trail and look up extension, and you can extend any part of the contract that has a date on it on that form. Stop writing them into blank addendums. Okay, like you yourself should stop yourself the moment you open up a blank addendum and hit yourself on the wrist and be like, pow, pow. No, do not use a blank addendum. Do you guys understand that? Look for it. Look if there's a new addendum. Look if there's another addendum that I can use for that's already written. Okay. There's a lot of lawsuits that happen after the crash and after COVID that agents are still being sued because agents were telling their buyers, hey, don't worry about it. We'll just waive the appraisal contingency. Okay, and they would write it into the contract, buyer waives appraisal contingency and will be paying $20,000 more over appraisal, $30,000 more over appraisal, $40,000 more over appraisal. Well, guess what? That became so big that the state of Florida said, nope, we need to create an appraisal gap contingency form. There's a form for that. If your buyer wants to pay more, Why? Because by you writing in there, buyer waives appraisal contingency, you're not answering the how, the when, the who, the why, how's it going to be paid, by whom, at what time, etc. Do you guys understand that? So that's why the state of Florida came up with the appraisal contingency. Okay, the appraisal gap contingency. Okay, so I'm gonna finish with page 2 because we're getting into the financing, and I want to make sure that I at least go over this. And like I told you, hopefully we set up a part 2. You're already talking about it. Okay, so that's great. Okay, so that means at least everybody's getting something out of this. Have you at least reached the point that you've learned more than 5 things? Yes. Okay. Perfect. Good. Okay. Perfect. So you start passing it on. And I do have 2 gifts for you guys. I'm gonna ask a question, and whoever gives me the answer. So I believe in learning more. So I have this one's called fanatical prospecting, and I've got this one called conversion code. This guy, Chris Smith, I've known him for forever. He used to do a lot of Inman events, and now he opened up his own company that's called Curator, if you want to ever follow him. But this book has to do with how you should do things in social media, working numbers, etc. This one is awesome. It's for prospecting. Okay, so I'll ask you a couple of questions. Whoever paid attention and whoever answers first, you guys okay? Okay. I believe in that, so I do want to pay it forward. I believe in paying it forward. If you see, I have passion for it. I love it. So hopefully you guys start paying it forward. All right. So page number 2, line 72 talks about if somebody has a lease and people are going to remain there, then okay, you go ahead and answer that after. If they're staying after occupancy, after closing, I'm sorry, there's still going to be occupied. They're going to need a copy of the lease, etc., stuff like that. I have issues with pre-occupancy, and I have issues with post-occupancy. Knock on wood, in 23 years, I don't do post-occupancy. That's me. Okay. So period. I just don't. Okay. If they already have a lease, that's completely stored. But what I'm talking about is my seller. Okay. So I had that conversation with my sellers as well. So just keep that in mind. So if, for example, you have somebody wants to move in before closing, like the buyer wants to move in before closing, because remember, what did I just say? At closing, the bank could run credit and the deal falls through, and now try to get the buyer out of there. Okay. So yeah. So again, now you see why I say I have issues with it, but again, you might have somebody that says, no, okay. So okay, assignability. So assignability, normally, I would say 90% of your deals, hopefully most of you are putting may not assign. But again, you can't. So one thing that's important to understand, we do not make decisions for our buyers. We do not make decisions for our sellers, our landlords, or our tenants. We are somebody in the middle that we are hopefully guiding them correctly. Do you understand that? But it is their final decision. But it is important that you explain to them what should be decided in that. So, and especially with addendums, okay? If it's a lead-based paint addendum, for example, you should not be the one filling in there, has no knowledge. Because remember, Bold Trail, Form Simplicity, all the tech that you use holds it in the signature who pressed that button. And it saves your IP address. So if this ends up in court for whatever reason, you're the one that touched it. And the buyer could be like, the seller could be like, I didn't push that button. I know that there's lead. Guys, you need to understand these things, okay? There are forms, and when we do part 2 and we'll get into addendum and stuff like that, that should be pre-filled by the seller before you put a listing on the market. If you guys look at my listings, let me see. Let me see if I can go quickly into one of them. I should have it automatic. There shouldn't be any listings that you guys have that should not have all the information. And when I'm looking at listings, if you don't have all the documents in there, I already for a little bit don't consider you a full professional. And that's just how I see things, right? So if you do not fill out, well, let me show you a condo because that's going to have the most, right? So for example, here's one. There you go. That is how you're going to see my listings. Okay. All of my listings are like that. So if it's an association, I make sure that if I cannot find the documents in the Miami-Dade website, I will get the documents from the seller and make sure that they go and find the documents. Why? Because I am not the agent that you guys are going to go to my listing and then reach out to me, Yuri, can I get the seller's property disclosure, please? That's not me. So again, when you guys see my listing, what do you already see? But what does that mean? What do you think about me? That I'm a professional. That's how you need to portray yourself out there. And this doesn't take too long, guys. It doesn't take a lot, but do it and then make it look pretty. All my compliments are from agents. Hey, I really appreciate that you put the documents in there. And to be honest with you, everything looked organized. I appreciate that. I already sent all the documents to the mortgage guy. He should have seen this because they love that. You understand? All financials are there. And if I can't find it, I can't find it. I'm not saying I find everything, but at least everything that has to be filled out by the seller is there. And anything that I can find anywhere else is there. Do you guys understand that? Okay. So those are important things. So now I'm lost. Too many things. See what I'm saying? Too many things. Okay. So now may not assign means that they can't assign this contract to anybody else at any time during the contract period. And again, this is a buyer consultation, right? So you need to create a checklist, guys, especially when you've never done a buyer consultation, as to questions that you need to ask a buyer or things that you need to discuss with a buyer. I need to discuss, make sure that I talk about the contract, make sure that I talk about inspection costs, make sure that I talk about if they're looking at pool, inspection cost of a pool, inspection cost if it has a septic tank, make sure to mention septic tank. A lot of the lawsuits on septic tank is because agents don't even mention that there's a septic tank in this property. A lot of listing agents don't even know that there's a septic tank in this property. Why? Because they don't ask the seller, is this septic or is this city connected? Okay, so you have to be able to ask. Most properties older than 1980s possibly could have a septic tank. Okay, so those are things that you need to ask. 2000s never ask for a septic tank because it's not going to have a septic tank. So, well, unless you're like in rural areas, very rural areas, which it might. Okay, so keep those things in mind. All right, so the second possible one that you might have, if the buyer tells you, well, Yuri, there's a possibility that, yeah, we make this an LLC. Okay, you need to talk about two things. Number one, you're going to put may assign, but not be released from liability. What does that mean? This person could possibly, Mario Vargas. Okay, we're writing the contract as Mario Vargas right now, but later he's going to make an LLC. Mario Vargas may change this into an LLC, but if anything goes wrong, he's still liable. So let's say that the LLC files to try to get a loan, but the LLC cannot acquire a loan. Is he out of it? Nope, he needs to now go get a loan. The one you got to be very careful with is the one that they tell you may assign. Because the moment they assign it, that's it. Mario Vargas has nothing to do with it anymore. Okay, so that's why I'm giving you what are the best scenarios. Okay, now again, we don't make the decision, but it's important that you guys guide them as to how it's going to be done, right? And the same thing goes for if you are being presented this deal, this transaction as the listing agent, you need to be aware and explain it to the seller because that could become a problem later in the future. Yes.
Why would that one even exist? That option, like may assign and.
Because as attorneys, remember, this was created with the Florida Realtors Association and with the Florida Bar Association of Attorneys. Attorneys' mind works completely different than you and I. What I am trying to do is make your mind work like an attorney without acting as an attorney. I am trying to make you think of the what ifs. If you guys start thinking of what if, remember how I told you, if that light fixture is going to cost me $500, whatever. You understand? But if I start thinking, what if I don't include this? Could that get me a lawsuit? What if I don't include this? That's how I want you to start thinking. So the best scenario that when they put this contract together is, let me give them all the options. And that's it. Okay? So that's why it's important to understand the contract. So remember how I said you're not attorneys, but I will tell you what is the best thing that you guys can do as a agent. Okay, and I'm sorry guys, I've already passed time. Just give me 15 more minutes. I'm gonna try to finish on page 2. What I've told you with what you should do. okay? Grab each page of the contract. And you guys, every computer has a screenshot app like this one right here, right? For example, I'm gonna take a screenshot and I'm gonna take a screenshot of this, okay? Just the whole thing, right? I don't have a mouse right now. And you go on ChatGPT and you tell ChatGPT, please explain this to me in layman's terms. Now remember, this is not for you to send to your clients. Never, ever, ever. And I'm glad that this is being recorded because you can never say Yuri told me to send this to my client. Okay. Never send that to your client. It is for you. So one of your homework should be, because you want to be better professionals, right? I need to go clause by clause. And if this takes me 1 month, then it's going to take me 1 month. But I need to understand each clause. Each clause, not just the ones that are fillable, guys. Every other page that is just writing, okay? Because there's one page on section O that says that text messages are not a contract. That got removed back in the 2021 contract. Why? Because agents were telling, because they're great friends, right? Hey, congratulations, my seller has accepted your offer. But then the next day, the seller accepted another offer because it wasn't communicated or delivered, right? And then the buyer agent calls, hey, I'm so happy, man. My buyer's at, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to call you. The seller has accepted another. No, I have a text message that says that you accepted it. So then they filed lawsuit. That got removed. So media is not allowed as part of an offer anymore. Now it has to be delivered by fax, email, or in person. Hand delivered, right? So that's very important to understand. Okay, so you guys should never accept a text or a word or anything until everything is signed, initialed, and delivered. Oh, and here's another thing. So let's talk about delivered. So let's say that the email went to spam and you never saw that, and you went into another contract with somebody else, and the agent went on a cruise and never. Was that contract delivered? Because you don't check your spam. That's literally it. It's your fault. So I try to, because I've been doing a bunch of things, look at my emails. I have 9 emails. And my spam, there's probably a few, not so many. I have 3 spams. Why? Because every night I go over my emails and my spam. And I had agents that would have like 30,000 emails. One time she's like, Yuri, can you help me go over this? And I'm like, okay, find me this. Number 1, it wasn't in the system, so that was already a problem. Number 2, this was her. Okay, that is a problem because anytime anything is delivered is your responsibility, 100%. So you need to stay on top of your spam. It's the same thing as most of you might do a Facebook Marketplace for rentals. Let's say you list it, right? You need to remove it if it's expired. You need to remove it if it got rented, etc. Or somebody text messages you on Facebook Marketplace, do you accept Section 8? And you're like, oh my God, I saw the notification. I'm not opening that. Because if I open it, that means that I read it. No. That message got delivered to your inbox. You need to reply. And it better not be, no, we don't take Section 8 because that's illegal. No, when would you like to see the property? Period. I just want to make sure that you guys understand that the way you've been doing it, hopefully nobody here and nobody in Zoom has been doing it, okay, could be wrong. It is important for you guys to ask questions, okay, and learn and become a better agent, okay? So hopefully that's kind of what I'm helping you with. All right, a financing, very simple. If it's cash, it's cash. If they decide to go to a loan and then they don't get approved, what do they have to do? Buy cash, period. I don't care what you're going to sell. Sell your kid, whatever you're going to do, you're going to buy cash. That's important. If they put cash, it's cash, 100%. If a mortgage broker sends me a cancellation, yeah, okay, thank you, I love it. I'll put it on a frame, but you're still going to close. You understand? Period. That's it. Financing. So let's finish with the financing. You see this area right here, line 89. That's where it talks about if left blank, then 30. Now I'm going to tell you the biggest mistake that listing agents do that you should never do. So if the closing is in 30 days, but let's say they put closing date 6/30. You went under contract on 6/01, 2026. And the closing date is 6/30. How many days is that? 29 days. And they put in the loan approval period 30 days because it says there, if left blank, 30. Now you're the listing agent. You received this offer. And you're like, okay, that's what it says. It's if left blank. Okay, perfect. I'm okay with that because that's what it says. That means that somebody created this form and they helped me out and they put the best date possible. Do you guys understand that? What have you given your buyer? An exit. They could literally cancel on the day of closing. Do you guys understand that? That is the biggest mistake, and you will be sued by a buyer or by a seller for losing them that deal. And the buyer will probably lose that deposit. Okay? So it is important. That date better be one of those dates that your mind says, I will not sleep until I check that date from this moment on. Do you understand? Now, hopefully you'll check the entire contract, but I want you to 100% because I still see agents doing that. They put 30 days and the closing is in 30 days. So, but remember, like I've told you, it is your responsibility to check when that day falls because on the closing part of the contract over here, they write in the date, right? Well, it's important for you guys to calculate again, like I told you, hey, Google, if the date of closing is this date and today is this date, how many days is that? Oh, that's 29 days. Oh, but they wrote 30 there. What do I need to do? Cross it out and change that to what my seller feels comfortable with. Do you guys understand that? Okay. So normally, I'm not a mean guy. Let's say when it comes to negotiation, I try to make comfortable for everybody. So I'm not going to give you 20 days. I'm not going to give you 25 days, but I might meet you in the middle and give you 23 days. Do you understand? And that way I have 7 days from closing for that period or whatever. Now, if I have the buyer, I go through the 10 commandments of being a buyer. One of them is don't lose your job, don't change jobs, don't buy a car, don't use your credit cards excessively, don't do this, don't do that. That goes in my buyer consultation, guys. And just so you know, when I pitch on my buyer consultation, hey, Mr. Buyer, all I need is 20, 25 minutes of your time. Everything I have told you, do you think that's going to take 25 minutes? But guess what I do? I make sure that they ask questions. So I give them information, I pause, and now they're like, I need to ask this guy questions. And they start asking questions. Now again, I just made them feel that the only reason we've gone past the 25 minutes is because they've asked questions. It's not because I made it longer. Do you guys understand that? So again, at the end of my normally buyer consultations, it ends up being, and I already know that they've tried with another agent, or I already know this. Hey, Yuri, I just want you to know that I've met with 3 other agents, and what I've learned with you in an hour has been more than I've ever learned with these 3 agents. What does that make them for me? A forever client. And now I get referrals. Do you guys understand that? That's how you guys need to start thinking with every buyer and seller. And if you don't get that listing at that first try, guess what? You're going to educate them. And then when they have the first problem with that listing agent that they decided to go to, that's when they come back to you. Do you guys see that? So those are important scenarios that you've got to start working and putting into your head and becoming the better agent, okay? So that date, extremely important for you to check. Now, one thing you need to stop doing is putting in their conventional FHA VA because you're like, well, my buyer's going to try everything. Well, what's the problem with that? Anybody know? No. The problem with that is, let's say he works some conventional. He sends me a letter of cancellation because he did not get approved in conventional, or no, vice versa. Let's say he sends me an FHA. They didn't get approved FHA. Okay, thank you very much, man. Try to get them approved in conventional. Ah, you guys understanding now, because guess what? I put the mindset of the what if. Now you're seeing, because you're yourself answering the questions, let me see what he's going at. Because if you check mark all 3, you just made it a point that that person has however many days to get qualified in any of those type of loans. Do you see that? So you need to make sure, remember how I told you if you're a listing agent, first thing you do is call him? Call the mortgage broker of the buyer. That's why you cannot accept an offer unless you receive the pre-approval. Why? Because I need to be able to talk to him. Okay. Do you guys understand that? Okay. So those are things that are important. Okay. I have a form that I use for mortgage brokers that basically I ask them questions. And it's just questioning him. Why? Because I need to put him at check that I know what I'm asking and I need to know. And I've never had a mortgage broker deny me that letter.
You have that form.
Yeah.
No, God.
So
I see it.
no, yeah. It's just that it's not on Vulture because I had it in my old system. So I'll look for it. And I don't want to keep everybody, but if you guys stay a second, I'll show it to you after. I just want to finish this part. Okay, so now you guys understand why you never want to put that, right? So only check mark where you're going to check mark. Now, fixed, adjustable, fixed or adjustable. If you choose fixed or adjustable, basically same thing. If you don't qualify for fixed, okay, go try to find me an adjustable mortgage. But again, if that date comes or that approval period comes and now they got to try something new, guess what they got to do? They got to do an extension. Do you guys understand that? Okay. And so I have one of my agents that came into the lifestyle and I've already, this happened. Closing was supposed to be today on his list. Okay. The buyer's mortgage guy sent an email on Saturday. The agent sent it to him on Sunday. He reached out to me and said, Yuri, what do I do? Okay. So this is what you're going to do. So I'm going to show you quickly what the reply was. Let me see, where is it? It should have it here. Give me 1 second. See, they're all talking about the cancellation and all of that. Ah, just sent it to me. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so here you go. Don't take a picture of this, whatever. So I told them what we have now. There's $10,000 in escrow. Good afternoon. Please find attached counter from seller, because of course they sent the cancellation letter. Okay, they said, so a couple of things. So he said, the mortgage guy said that the property was on the Fannie Mae list as unavailable or something like that, right? Unavailable. But we're literally at closing date, right? So shouldn't that be something that he should have seen on day one? Do you guys understand that? Like, I mean, it didn't just become unavailable yesterday. Okay, so that's number one. And then they're saying because the condo did not qualify or whatever. Okay, so then I say, good afternoon, find the counter from seller. This counter is based on the fact that 30 days of approval period found on page 2. Again, who, what, why, when, where? That's what you're going to say, right? Page 2 of the purchase and sales contract has passed and no notification of cancellation or extension of this period was requested. So that means deposit is void, right? Now, of course, anybody can go to court, guys. So, we'll see what happens. The funny thing is that the title company has an attorney and the other title company has an attorney, so they're at it now. The seller is open to extend the closing in order to have the buyer try with a different mortgage broker. If one mortgage broker did not approve them, possibly another mortgage broker figures out and then they might be approved. Now, keep in mind, this buyer for a while kind of felt like he wanted to cancel for whatever reason. Maybe he found a better property or whatever, right? Furthermore, the explanation of the mortgage broker himself states that Fannie Mae condo list website says unavailable. Should have been mentioned to the buyer before presenting an offer or up to the inspection period. So then the buyer doesn't waive his deposit, right? The seller has been expecting the sale and has achieved all the requirements in the contract that specifically stated. There's certain words that I mentioned. Why? Because if you remember from 63-hour course, there's something called specific performance. Specific performance basically says that both parties must specifically perform as the contract states. And the next line says, this has become a specific performance issue and the seller is in compliance, meaning that the seller has done everything possible to get us to closing. But your buyer failed that part. So we're asking for the full $10,000. You understand? Now, I'm sure what's going to happen is that they're going to counter and but we're going to get something out of it. I don't care. Okay. I just don't sign cancellations or stuff like that. This is in my previous company. That's the last closing that I'm doing over there with my agent. So just keep those things in mind that are important. That's why that approval is important. That agent failed to do so. So I'm sure that what's going to happen is that the title company's attorney is telling that agent, you effed up. And now your buyer's going to lose something, right? All right, now percentage. This part is very important, and he's here to tell you. So you see how it says, if left blank, adjustable rate, if left blank, then prevailing rate based on upon buyer credit worthiness is what applies. Guys, it is important for you to call the mortgage broker and say, listen, I need to protect my buyer. Give me a rate that is reasonable to today's market where I can protect my buyer in case rates go up. Because what if the buyer has an 800 beacon score, but the buyer, he quoted them 7%, but the buyer says, or let's say he quoted him 7%, right? He leaves that blank. But then when they're ready, like to make the final decision, at that point, the rate is 8%. And the buyer says, I'm not willing to pay 8%. But he has an 850 beacon score and has everything paid off. Can he still close that deal with an 8%? Will he qualify? Okay. That's what it says. Based on the buyer's credit worthiness. Okay. Now, if this buyer is a 450 beacon score and he can only go to a max of 7%, and it goes up to 7.5, he's not going to qualify at 7.5. But if this buyer is an 8% and he has an 850 beacon score, he can still qualify even at 10%. Do you guys understand the mindset? So before you make that offer, you need to call the mortgage broker or the buyer and say, hey, listen, I need to protect my buyer. And on line letter of the contract, I need to put in a percentage where it's going to protect them. Now, you're not going to be ridiculous and the rates are at 7 and you're going to put 4%. Don't do that, because I, as a listing agent, will challenge you that. And I'll call your mortgage broker and be like, really? So 4% is all you're offering that? Because I got a bunch of clients to come to you. And he's going to be like, oh, no, it's just that he wanted to protect the buyer. Well, that's a problem because you're doing your job incorrectly.
I can get you a 4%.
You say, okay, great. With 75% down, but he'll get it. But okay, so there you go. We're going back to
3.5%.
Oh, that sounds to me like 2008, 2009. Let's not get into it. Okay, trust me, I lived that moment. So yeah. Okay, so but understand the importance. So I know it says something that you feel protects you. It doesn't protect you or your buyer. Okay. Now the other one says if left blank then 30. Now we know that most mortgages are 30, right? So, but what are you going to do from now on? You're going to put in 30. Now, if the pre-approval says 40 years, 50 years, whatever, then that's what you're going to put. So it's always good to ask them as well, okay? The next part is by when do they need to file for financing, okay? 5 days should be okay. But guess who needs to be on top of them, guys? That's part of his job, but that's part of your job. Because you are there to protect the buyer's what? Deposit. So remember how with the seller, I gave you the key phrase, hey, Mr. Seller, all I'm trying to do is get you the highest price possible. And they'll never tell you, I don't want the highest price. With the buyer, hey, Mr. Buyer, my job is to protect your deposit. Hey, Mr. Buyer, my job is to protect your deposit. Hey, Mr. Buyer, it's been 2 days since we put in the offer. We've got an effective contract. You have 3 days left. And I just spoke to the mortgage person, and the mortgage person tells me that you haven't even called them. You understand that you will be in breach of contract and you could lose your deposit if you do not make the offer if you don't go ahead and apply within this time. That's your job. It is not the responsibility of the buyer. That is why they have hired you. And to be honest with you, the number one reason why that lawsuit was lost is because agents were not being held responsible because you were not being hired. Now there is a contract that you now work for the buyer for a fee. Now you are held responsible. So you need to start thinking as such. Do you guys understand that mindset? Okay. So all of those things are important. Okay, guys, as you see, we ended with page 2 of 13. So I think there will be a part 2, hopefully, right? Now, part 2 will probably be down south. So I would love to have a much fuller class. And I'll tell you one thing, the way I believe, not everybody knows, but I've only been with the company, well, today's Tuesday, so 3 weeks exactly. In 3 weeks, I have visited 13 offices. Tomorrow, I'm going up to Orlando and visiting the Orlando office, and I'm also going to visit some of the owners. Next week, I'm going to the Tampa office. That'll be 15 offices. Number one thing I want is to communicate, to network, and to meet people. That is part of your job. You guys should, hopefully, when you see trainings happening in other offices, make time and show up and say hello, meet everybody. Say that is a big part of our business because I used to get a ton of deals. Okay. In my other 2 companies, when they had agents, I don't go to just Kendall events. I go to further events. Why? Because I might have an agent that doesn't want to work Homestead and they got a listing or they have a buyer and they'll refer it to me. That's how you guys need to think because you made an impression on them. So you guys need to start meeting other people, okay? Because you might have somebody that wants to work in Fort Lauderdale, but they don't want to drive all the way to Fort Lauderdale, especially when gas is $5. So meet people from Homestead, meet people from Kendall, meet people from Dayland, meet people from other places. Do you guys understand that? And start going to other events in other locations. So number one, I appreciate the fact that you took the time to come here. So let me ask, I'm gonna ask 2 questions, and whoever's the first one that answers, okay, you get first dibs and first choice. When you put an offer together on the first page, what is it that you're gonna do with your hand from this moment on? Perfect. Okay, nope, he did it. So what's your choice? I mean, you could also give it to any agent later, but this is for social media. This is more for perfect. Guys, that was a simple one. I thought you would all get that because hopefully you guys start doing that from now on. Okay. Second, what is one thing that you will never write from this moment on dates? I kind of heard it. Oh, sorry. And there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I want you to speak up, start speaking. I love when people ask questions. I think that's how you get to learn. Even now, when I go to events, guys, you'll see me at events and I don't ask questions for me. I ask questions for you because that is the fear that most agents have. I used to go to a lot of panelist events in the beginning, and I tell you, I got so annoyed at panelist events, especially like the luxury events, because they spend 30 minutes of the 1 hour just talking about all their greatness and everything that they sold and how much money they sell and all of that. I don't care about that. If I'm a new agent, I want to know how you got there. So you guys need to raise your hand and say, thank you for telling me how much you spend in marketing now because you spent $50,000 in marketing. Can you please tell me how you acquired your first buyer, your first seller, and or how did you acquire your first multi-million-dollar deal? You guys need to speak up and ask questions and put them on the spot. I never got invited the second time I went to another panelist event because I asked those questions and I became a panelist as well on some of those, but I would, I'm not much for that. I don't mind challenging people and challenge me. I love it. Challenge me because if I don't have the answer, I'm going to tell you, I don't know. I appreciate your question. Yes, go ahead.
So like, when I work with a buyer, I'll do like the pre-approval presentation. So I show them what they're eligible for, what the next steps in the process. And then I'll go into like, we'll talk about money, like, hey, out of pocket inspection, this is what this is, appraisal. So we talked a little bit about out of pocket stuff. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this or not, but would it be like prudent to like show them if you go to where you talked about the escrow deposit, like on page one, if I can like show them that. And then just kind of reinforce like, hey, now that you're pre-approved, team up with the title company, put like $5,000 in escrow, that way you can check off this box. So when you're making your offers, like it's strong, like you're not gonna lose that money, like while it's in there, like, but you can at least, I don't know if that's something that.
So I'll answer that question based on the best and most correct answer I can give you. I believe big time is that there's a professional for everything. I do not answer mortgage questions. I let the professional answer mortgage questions, right? I don't know the mortgage law and what you're allowed to or not allowed to. I know that we're not allowed to be attorneys, and I know that we're not allowed to be mortgage people. So for example, I have a lot of friends in the business that I see them on Instagram posting, hey guys, interest rate is 7% today. La, la, la. That is illegal. You are not allowed to do that. What you can do, and I'm sorry, I keep forgetting your name. Ronald. What you can do is reach out to Ronald. Hey, Ronald, do you have a flyer, or can I create a flyer, put your name, put your picture, put your license number, because anything that he does for media needs to have his license number, and put there that you have mentioned this and that, whatever. Or he sends you the flyer. You're allowed to do that. But you should not be posting interest rates today are 7%. Because you are not a mortgage broker. You don't have a mortgage license. So you cannot be doing that. And I understand a lot of agents will say, well, I do it because I'll get leads from that. Yeah, well, that's illegal. You shouldn't be doing that. You could be sued for that. And trust me, errors and omissions will not protect you on that because that's your own personal social media. But you're allowed to create relationships with him. Just as my answer to him now is, if he has a great agent that he connects with, then maybe he says, hey, look, I have a great agent that before he even shows you a property, what he likes to do is do buyer consultations. And in those buyer consultations, he'll answer all the questions and make the best suggestions possible as to how to present an offer, how to make your offer stronger. Why? Because there's a lot of buyers out there that present multiple offers and never they get accepted. Guess what? Maybe that agent that they're working for doesn't understand how to make a second deposit, will make it stronger. Maybe that agent doesn't understand why instead of putting 15 days inspection, I can pitch 7 days, 10 days. Maybe that agent doesn't understand what it means to accompany an offer with the escrow, right? But I do work with an agent that understands that, okay? Those are the things that will make you a better agent, okay? And that's kind of where my answer would be. I would say don't stick with trying to answer our part, just as we should not answer your part. Our thing should be, and that's something that I normally do with our buyers. I say, hey, listen, do you have a problem? We have an in-house lender. He just wants to go ahead and say hi to you. And then I already have a script with him, and it's got to be 5-minute conversation, and that's it. Do you understand? It's up to him to win that person in 5 minutes. It's kind of like an elevator pitch, right?
Like 20 years ago with this and that, and then I can connect you with someone.
No, I would rather you get that flyer from him. That would be the best thing.
It's that way, it triggers that word.
Exactly. You add ambiguity. That's the problem. And how many buyers have you had these conversations with and they think that you are the mortgage broker? Well, isn't that a problem? Yeah. Perfect. There you go. And understand that in case of a lawsuit, that is what they're going to say. They're going to say, well, you know what? I thought that Yuri was my mortgage broker and my seller broker. And I thought that he was also the title company. And I thought that why? Because you have not explained the separation of powers.
Can I post videos on my Instagram, let's say?
I'm sure he'd be happy about it. But I'll give you a better scenario, guys. So I'm going to guide you and tell you how to become much better, right? Instead of doing that, what can you do? Anybody have an idea?
Right, who's the property saying, bulk FHA or commercial?
No, more about what she just said here with this example. Yeah, I'd be like, hey, can I please, let's do a video together. Do you mind if I ask you 3 questions? Because again, I'm not here to grow his brand. I don't care about his brand. I no disrespect. I care about your brand, but I don't care about his brand. I care about my brand. How am I going to grow my brand? I grow my brand by presenting them with the right professionals. So do you mind if we do a quick 5-minute video or a 2-minute video? Or if you want a longer YouTube video, then you go ahead and create it, right? All right.
No,
Okay. Guys, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Hopefully you learned something, right? Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yes. Yes.
What happens if the buyer's agent does not tell the listing agent that the loan approval came in?
Well, that's it. Once the loan approval passes, that's it.
But the seller has the ability to walk away from the deal.
So at that point, the seller also has the right. It's up to him to fight or not fight for the deposit. You know what I mean? So remember what I told you. Even though the contract says the deposit becomes part of the seller, could the buyer still file a lawsuit and try to stop that? Yeah, because we live in Miami. I mean, Miami is number one, not at sports, but it's number one at everything else. All the shady stuff we're number one at. So everybody wants to sue everybody. Do you guys understand that?
The sellers,
You have to.
agent,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And-
The loan approval. The loan approval is in and it's solid.
Yes.
Yes, and I'll be honest with you. So, like I told you, my thing always in this business is to create relationships. So I know I've kind of played around and I say this, but one of the things that I do is I will call you the day before and I'll remind you because I stay on top of my dates. Because at the same time, do I want to lose the deal for my seller? Do I want to lose the deal for my buyer? Do you guys understand that? But what I do, again, paying it forward, okay, is I call you and I say, hey, buyer agent, I just want to let you know, I don't know if you were aware, but tomorrow is the last day of approval period. Okay. So let me know if you're going to extend it so I can pass it on to the sellers. If not, let me know if you're going to cancel. And many times I have had to explain to a buyer what that means to a buyer agent. So I have trained the buyer agent. Do you understand? Yes.
But it is my understanding, and I might be completely wrong, that the approval is still contingent on,
Yes.
as you're saying.
Yeah. That's why I said, remember, banks could cancel on date, but the deposit is gone.
So you can have that approval, but that doesn't mean that the buyer, because of those contingencies, the buyer can get away without losing the deposit.
So that's the biggest part, right? And that's where it could become a lawsuit. So that's kind of what happened here, right? Approval period passed. Yeah, because the buyer could cancel. I mean, he sent a cancellation letter, buyer canceled, right? Unless there's another reason, like what I said. That person, I said, hey, we're willing to extend and go to another mortgage broker. Because I'm trying to keep the deal alive. I'm trying to not make him lose his deposit. But if he wants to cancel and my seller wants to fight and go to court, we have a fight. Because you literally told us on day of closing. Today is day of closing for that deal.
No, but for example, let's say the buyer wants to move forward, there is an approval letter, so everybody feels more forward, and let's say the day before, they run the credit is less than what he needs, so he can't close.
Right. But okay, so I'm gonna give you a scenario like this. Think about it like this. Let's say that the seller had put in an offer in a property in Orlando, right? No, the seller, right? He received the offer from the buyer, accepted that offer, and the buyer is like, oh, this is gonna be awesome because I already talked to a mortgage broker, is a good buyer, right? Seller puts an offer in Orlando for a property that he's gonna close tomorrow. Closing on his properties today, closing on the Orlando properties tomorrow. Seller has $50,000 in escrow on that one because that's a much larger property, more expensive. He wants $50,000. Seller has already moved all his stuff into storage. That cost him 10 grand, right? Now buyer gets a cancellation from him. That's perfectly fine. But I never got notified that this guy could possibly not be approved, right? There was no notification. Now my seller has lost $10,000 in the move. My seller could possibly lose $50,000 on that transaction. I want at least this deposit for myself. And he has the right to because I was never notified on it. Now again, this all could go to court. And whatever happens in that scenario happens. Do you understand that? But my job is to guide everybody to understand what could possibly happen. And remember, I said, protect your behind by writing an email. Hey, Mr. Buyer, you always have the right to have an attorney look at this. Hey, Mr. Seller, you always have the right to have your attorney look at it. They can never come back at.
But the part that I don't get is that if I understand your example, so say we gave the loan, the approval on the date that it was due.
Mhm.
But there's still contingency.
Yes.
Up until then,
Mhm.
so let's say the day before, for whatever reason, the buyer's credit is lower than it
Mhm.
needs to and he can't close.
Mhm.
Is he now by law, forced to give the deposit?
I mean, they could. Now, again, like I said, they could fight it out. That
So you have to fight it out. It's not.
Well, no. Sometimes it's as simple. This one, I possibly because of the way we worded the email, possibly the buyer's attorney is going to look at this and it's like, you're not messing with somebody that doesn't understand. Because I said specific performance. Specific performance is a rule, is a law that basically says you have performed everything up till now, but now this happened. You never warned about the pre-approval, you lose your deposit. Because of that, the attorney for the buyer could possibly say, look, if we go to court, you're going to lose straight up. Now, the problem is once it goes to arbitration or court or whatever it is, keep in mind that what you're fighting over is the 10 grand. Attorneys are being paid off of that. So at the end of the day, so it's all up to the company to fight it out or not fight it out, or for the seller to decide, hey, Mr., you know what, I'm going to hire an attorney at $5,000. That's what it's going to cost me, but I'm only fighting for this much. Because most contracts, especially when they're listing contracts, a part of that goes to the company. Normally on a 50-50. So on 10, maybe it's not worth it, right? So those are things that you look at. So there's a lot of intricate things at play with that. But if you read, remember what I told you, do with ChatGPT. So if you go over this right here, tell it to read you everything from page 2 at the end to page 3. It literally basically says that the moment the approval period passes, this becomes a cash deal. Literally. That's basically what it says. And that's why, again, I don't have the time to go word by word by word, but I do understand what it basically says. And that's what it says. The moment this passes, it basically becomes a cash deal. Okay. And that's why I want to try to keep the deal alive. And that's why I said you want to do an extension on the closing date. Understand that I am not dumb. And they send me an extension, or they send my agent an extension of the approval period, which had already passed. They can't extend that anymore. It's already void. Okay, so it is important to understand what you're receiving and what you're seeing. Got it? Okay, so that's why talking about all these addendums and talking about things like that are important as well. That's why we're probably going to have to do a part 2, a part 3, a part 4, whatever. Okay, I don't know how many parts we're going to end up doing. So, okay, so any other questions, guys? Yes.
You can answer it. It's like I'll put right Google questions. A listing one by a Coldwell Banker agent, and she put in the broker terms that the buyer's agent broker cannot claim any part of the deposit should anything go wrong. Something to that alludes to that. Remember, have you ever seen that before?
So what she's talking about is exactly what I just said. That's in the listing contract. In the listing contract, there's a section that says that the company, the brokerage company, gets to claim part of the deposit that's won in case of arbitration or mediation. So what she's saying is that, right? But at the end of the day, that's up to her to put it into the contract. Again, does the broker remarks cover anybody? No. So, no. And she could say whatever she wants. I could include that into the addendum into there and say, well, in case of this or whatever, brokerage keeps that. And she says, well, I put it in the broker remarks. Yeah, and okay. Broker remarks, guys, and remarks are informative. They are not contract. That's what you guys need to start understanding. I never, ever base anything on what I see in the MLS. Just basics. Even when somebody puts, oh, application for the association is $150, I'm going to find out what it really is. Do you understand? Because I don't go by what they tell me. I go and I find the document, I look for the application, and the application could say 175, or it changed. It's my fault if it changed and I didn't guide my client together correctly. You guys need to do your job. Just like attorneys, they have somebody that helped them in a fight, right? Like they have, oh, this is my secretary, or this is, what do they call them? Paralegals. Paralegal looks this up. Okay, it is my job, unless I have an assistant, to look at everything as if I am also my own paralegal. Do you understand? And if you want to hire a transaction coordinator, I used to work with a transaction coordinator once. and they let some things slide, and I don't like it, and that's it. I stop working with them. I have to protect my license before anything, and second, I got to protect Georgia's, and I got to protect the company's license. So that's how you guys need to think, right? Remember, errors and omissions insurance only covers you on a mistake that you might make on a contract, not on something you send by text, not on something you send by email. Okay. And no, I'm not even going to mention email issues. Because I don't know, George might shoot me for that. Okay, so those are very, very important things that you guys need to stay on top of. Any other questions, guys? I'm sorry I took you to. Oh my God, I did 3 hours? I didn't even know. I'm sorry. And we did 2 pages, so okay. But hopefully you guys understand. Did you at least learn more than 5? I said more than 5.
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. Okay, good. Anything else? Nope.
Very
Am
good.
I gonna see some of you in the down south part 2 class? It's probably going to be in Palmetto Bay, if not Miami Lakes. I'm gonna see, because Miami Lakes is in between. So maybe we get south and north people to attend, and we can fill up that room with much bigger people. I love Zoom, don't get me wrong. No, I don't really like Zoom. Yeah, okay. I love more in person, right? But I love my Zoom people, of course, any questions that you have, and I know that not everybody can attend. But I think that you feel more energy in person. You get to really interact with everybody else, people that you have never met, people that you haven't seen. She's new, they're new in the company, so they get to meet everybody else. So I really appreciate that. You get prices, yes, love it. I love that. So and you get food. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.